Today we'll be briefly discussing the differences between a gifted and typical brain. Compared to a typical brain, individuals with a gifted, talented, and creative brain have a better working memory and creative intelligence because of their ability to more successfully engage in fluid analogizing. Fluid analogizing is a phrase used to describe information processing within the brain. This is basically the brain's ability to make many connections with similar and dissimilar information in the form of metaphors and analogies. However, in the gifted brain, this process happens rather quickly. Therefore, in gifted, talented, and creative individuals, their brains are faster at forming a range of responses to problems. These responses would be acceptable answers or solutions to a problem. For example, when I have asked my gifted students how to solve for a particular math problem and explain how they arrived at the solution, they will share many different approaches, all of which are correct. Students understand that each different approach is correct and that there is no one right answer. This ability to process information, make connections, and come up with many answers more quickly in the gifted brain could be supported by heightened activity in the frontal function of the brain within the frontoparietal network. While the gifted brain has the potential to process information more quickly than the typical brain, it is important to note that gifted individuals do indeed need time for information to incubate so that they can make those deeper connections. Therefore, while gifted students have a higher cognitive ability than typical students, this does not necessarily correlate with high achievement. Typical students of lower ability are just as capable of achievement as gifted students are if they have the motivation and grit. These typical students could be the students that get labeled as high achieving. If gifted students do not possess internal motivation and drive, they can be overshadowed by the products produced by more typical students. The disparity between one's ability and whether or not they are high achievers could be due to the nature versus nurture component. Just because nature gives you a higher ability does not mean that how you grow up and how your environment shaped you will ensure that you are also a high achiever. Therefore, it is more accurate to say that gifted brains have potential to be high achieving, but achievement has to continue throughout one's life. It is not who you are, but what you do. This is in line with Rena Sabatnik's view that yes, one can be gifted, but should they retain that label if they do not show continued achievement? So while there are marked differences between a gifted and typical brain, ultimately the nature versus nurture component will determine whether one uses their high abilities to be high achieving. If not, with enough fortitude, a typical student can outshine a gifted student and be higher achieving despite less cognitive ability. So the takeaway should be one's experiences really do determine one's potential for success, not just their genetic abilities alone.